Hey guys, this is Danny. I've just made some updates to some of the scripts so that they work better together. And what we're going to work towards achieving is this setup where I've got one button that's controlling each of these faders in sequence. And that's being controlled. Next is controlling FlipMaster, and FlipMaster is controlling TweenMachine for the fades. So let me just disable these one at a time and show you what actually is going on. So without next, double tapping the keyboard will set the keyboard to control that plugin. So without next, you can still do the controls. They're not sequential, so you can decide what you want them to do, but they tween, which is using TweenMachine to actually do the tweening. Without TweenMachine, these would just flip to 100%, and they're making sure that the others are set down when the one you've selected is set up. So if we get rid of that for a minute, I'll also show you that without FlipMaster, each are completely independent. So that's the independent version is TweenMachine on its own, and you'll see here that you can use the pads. Okay, so now we've undone all that, let's go back in the opposite direction. Just to clarify, I've got TweenMachine going into MIDI control, which is the AUM automation destination. This is exactly the same setting as you set in here. It took me a little while when I first started to realize that the MIDI automation is a global thing that can be set in the matrix just by doing that. But this is exactly the same setting here. So we've got this one sending to CC0, 1, and 2, which is why I've set the volume faders to work on channel 1, 2, and 3 here. And the next thing we need to do is open another Mozaic and load up FlipMaster. So FlipMaster now by default sends CCs and notes. It used to only send CCs, so that's one of the major changes. What this means is basically you will get stuck notes if you route directly, FlipMaster directly into a sound generator like a synth, it will stick notes on these different numbers, so don't do it unless you particularly want to do that because you like giving yourself a headache. But essentially, it's not really what this script was made for, so you shouldn't ever have to route it into a synth anyway. So what we want to do is, instead of the keyboard, we want to use FlipMaster to control Mozaic TweenMachine. And what that means is now you'll see that if I hit these pads, it's actually controlling, oh, let me send this to the keyboard. It's controlling the state of these faders. Now you'll notice that they're out of sync because there's no real way to know what's what between AUM and the script. So we need to get them in a state where they're actually working together. So at the moment you'll see they're all set to 0 in TweenMachine. You'll see that the first note is enabled in FlipMaster, so I just want to send that one a 1, 2, 7, and the others are zeros. Okay, so now you'll see that the state of these faders matches the state of FlipMaster, and you'll see that now they work as expected. So if you send an extra one, then they turn all down. So you can use an extra pad in FlipMaster in order to send a 0 to everything else. Otherwise, it's just making an exclusive selection, basically. So that's that on the 3 notes. And the only last part of the puzzle is using next to make that happen on a single controller. So let's open next, which hasn't changed recently. I'll change the number of cells to 1. I'll hit the reset button to change the cell settings and go down to 48, and the number of steps to be 3, or let's say 4 actually if you want, because you can then use the reset. Send it to the keyboard, and now when I hit this button, nothing happens, because I also need to set it to control FlipMaster. So the keyboard now controls, as you can see, keyboard controls Next, Next controls FlipMaster, FlipMaster controls TweenMachine, and now we've got this thing happening. So when on the last press, it turns them all off, as I just showed. FlipMaster goes to the 4th pad. And obviously with Next, you can change the direction to be reversed. So now it will go in the opposite direction. Or you can set it to random, which will still create repetition. So sometimes it will try and trigger the same thing, and it's maybe not the use case for this particular purpose, but that's also a feature of Next that you might have seen in the other video. So if you found this useful, consider buying me a coffee. I'm currently 2 subscribers away from 2,000. So if you watch this all the way to the end and like this type of content, consider subscribing and get me over that 2,000 mark. And I'll see you around. Let me know if there are any issues with the scripts, and obviously happy to fix them. Or if you have any ideas for features, let me know.